kiss for you.
The title is not a lie and it is not clickbait. I do believe that everyone you see playing DK Bananza is for the most part playing it wrong, because most people that are playing this game are content creators, media presence, live streamers, what have you, and they're trying to showcase the game in a way that is very, viewer friendly. Let's just say this, and this is the crux of the video. The game's focus is on destroying stuff, and if you skip out on destroying stuff and you skip out on not 100% completing the game, but definitely getting a large quantity of the collectibles in the game, if you skip out on that, you're not really getting the full experience in my opinion. And the reason I say that is because, like everyone else, I was under the impression when the game had the direct and the trailers, as well as some gameplay of people playing it, that this was mostly a Mario Odyssey, but a little bit of destruction in like a Donkey Kong skin. That was not going to be a problem, it was just that was kind of what it is to note. And I now, after playing a good chunk of it, don't believe that's the case at all. I really think that this is fundamentally a different game than Odyssey in terms of pretty much everything except the development team behind it and some of the moves. But fundamentally, this is a different game, and the key factor for that is its destruction. And again, the reason I think people are playing this game wrong is because they're trying to make this a very viewer-friendly experience. And if you play this game, like I'm showing clips here, like a maniac, like I am, to try and get the most optimal stuff, that is not a very viewer-pleasant experience, both from how the camera works, to how frantic everything is, to just people being bored watching destruction all the time. There's a lot of elements that can go into play of like viewer kind of engagement, but what I kind of mean to focus on is that, like, if you're watching someone play this game as a live stream, they're most likely not going to be doing what I'm doing here and going around destroying as much as possible and like frantically getting maps, opening the map, finding where the next fossil is, running over it, that kind of thing. They're not going to be doing that, right? Because they want to have it engaging for the audience, so they're going to be doing new things frequently. They're going to be chatting, they're going to be doing things that engage the audience. The problem is when that is your only exposure to the game before you play it, that's the assumption you go into the game having. This isn't exclusively an issue with DK Bananza, but it is something I definitely notice more so in this game because of how it operates. And that is obviously the fact that its destruction in the game is central. If you are not destroying 80% of the things in this game, you aren't getting the full experience. I kind of make it akin to something like Tears of the Kingdom, and how that operates, and how you get, like, you can go down from the sky zone, get a bunch of stuff there, and go immediately fight the boss, but that's not really the full experience, right? And I think something similar happens here, is even though the bananas ultimately in the collectibles, the main collectible being the banana gems and the bananas, even though those are just skill points, which you would unlock anyway just by playing the game, it feels like interacting with all the game systems and all that the game has to offer is really in the form of those collecting elements. And to kind of prove that point, I 100%ed the first area, which is like a lagoon layer. The first zone after the tutorial is this zone here, and I 100%ed, getting all the 48, I believe, bananas, as well as 72 fossils, and I did that because I wanted to see what it was like. It took about 5.5 hours. Now I don't expect that I'm going to be doing that for the rest of the game, but I did just kind of want to make that point, that it took about 5.5 hours for me to 100% that section, and I loved doing it. And the reason I love doing it, and we'll kind of get into this part now, is, you may be wondering, I mentioned it a little bit before, but like, why would people be playing this game wrong? Or what would make them kind of not want to be playing it the way you're probably seeing me play it here? Well, the main factor is just comfort level, right? You're going around destroying a lot of stuff, going crazy. Like there's one example where after you get past the bridge in the first zone, to the left, there's like a thing where you have to get like a disc or something. You can destroy that entire section. Everything is destroyable, right? You can destroy that entire section, and I wasn't expecting to get much out of it because at this point I had collected most of the bananas and the fossils, so I was just expecting, a standard amount of stuff. I destroyed that entire section there, and I got 9 chests. I believe 3 of them were gold, but like 4 or 5 of them were like fossil maps. So the main collectibles are your gold, your bananas, and your fossils. And you'll be destroying stuff, and you'll get like chests that either have those 3 things in it. But what I really found nice about the destruction in the game is I was rewarded for doing that. And that's something that you may not expect because it's not super common. A lot of platformers, especially most platforms from Nintendo, don't really have that kind of mindset to them. right? They're not full of stuff to do. They're kind of just like things you can do for fun. And so I wouldn't blame anyone for assuming that destroying most objects isn't worth it. I even had that assumption at the start, because destroying a lot of objects in like the opening tutorial zone isn't that helpful. But once you get to like the first actual world, destroying stuff becomes very important. Not only for the gold you get, but for the collection of the fossils, as well as finding various entrances to things like where you can find bananas and stuff, right? But destruction here is really surprising because it does reward you for that. You're going to see clips, probably as I've already shown and going on with the video, that are just me in like the roll mode, going crazy, basically playing this game like pinball, zipping around through and destroying stuff, because that is the most efficient way to destroy as much stuff as possible to gain not only gold but also chests to be able to get, fossils. Now, because everything here is sort of optional in terms of what it gives you, because the fossils can be exchanged for, benefits and clothing and stuff, but none of that's like required for you to progress the game. But because it's all optional, a lot of people aren't necessarily going to engage with it, which is a shame, because as I said, if you were not really destroying at 80%, I would say, of what's here, not the entire level, but just like in general, if you're not searching and exploring, you are missing out on, I think, a lot of the enjoyment of the game. And that's unfortunate, right? Because this is, I think, if people that kind of were lukewarm of the game or played it and enjoyed it but didn't see all the praise, I think if they played it off stream or just by themselves, they would enjoy it a lot more, because they wouldn't have to contend with the kind of need to engage viewers, because I think this game is really tough to do that, because it's really engaging to play, but it's not necessarily that interesting to watch, which I think is really what the title comes down to, is that like everyone you see, everyone you're watching play the game is inherently playing it in a way to either make fun of it or, like a donkey video or something, like for comedy reasons, or it is to kind of praise the game, but it can't really do that without becoming a little bit annoying, right? It's kind of a thing where you don't want to showcase how bad the game looks if you're just like zipping around stuff, destroying things, frame rate, cameras going everywhere, right? While you're praising the game, there's a little bit of a disconnect there. But I did kind of want to mention this because I did see some comments on a couple streams that were talking about this, how it was crazy how they were like 20 hours into the game and only on World 3, and that this person somehow completed the game already, right? Like, I think this game is DK Bananza is a really good example of the kind of spread. Another game was obviously Tears of the Kingdom, but Tears of the Kingdom was sort of open-ended intentionally. That was kind of a game that everyone kind of realized, like, yes, there's obviously a very wide margin, because that's how the game is set up. I don't think most people understand that DK Bananza is also set up like this, because it just doesn't seem like a game that would be. I think a lot of people would think, okay, this is like a relatively linear platformer, like Odyssey of some destruction. And while that is technically the case in terms of like the bare bones of what it is, a lot of the quality of the game comes from how much you can destroy and what that leads to. And that's not something I've been really necessarily seeing in a lot of gameplay. There are some people that have done it, so I'm not saying it's everyone, but it's definitely something that I've absolutely noticed, and I did want to call attention to it, that a lot of fun in this game, on top of just actually being able to play it, is the destruction elements that you oftentimes don't see. And so this is, if anything, this is kind of like a companion piece to the video I did on No Man's Sky, where I was also talking about that fact, where like I loved No Man's Sky, and that was a game I really loved, and I loved talking about it, but I titled that video, You Probably Won't Like No Man's Sky, because it had a lot of elements in it that weren't often discussed and were kind of overlooked. If that video was saying, hey, I love this thing, but here's some stuff you should know about it, this video is the opposite and saying, hey, I also love this thing, but here's some stuff that you should know about it that actually will improve the game and the game itself. It's kind of a reverse. People oftentimes in the No Man's Sky will look at that, videos by people making No Man's Sky content and be like, oh my god, this is amazing, and then they'll get into it and be disappointed that it's a survival game, right? DK Bananza is the opposite. I think if you're looking at this game and you're kind of disappointed with the kind of quality, or not disappointed by the quality, but, not that interested in the game, I think if you actually play it yourself, without any cameras or anything like that, and you actually get into it, you're going to enjoy it way more. So hopefully I was able to kind of make that contrast understandable and have that be kind of known, because I think this is a topic that isn't really discussed. Is kind of like what happens when everyone has to view the lens of playing a game through like live streams and content creation. It can kind of get warped, and oftentimes it's not a problem, if there's a linear game, Souls-likes or story-based games or RPGs, there's not really stuff you can kind of do. But for these kind of games like this and Tears of the Kingdom and some other more open-ended ones, I think it's really important to showcase the other side to them that is oftentimes overlooked. So hopefully that made sense. If you like this kind of content and want to see more reviews on the channel, I do a master review series. If you want to see game highlights, I do a Just Jam series where I highlight various games. And if you want more game design analyses like this one for the Game Lab series, if you want any of those, all free, nothing behind a paywall, make sure to hit that subscribe button, like the video, comment down below, all that, and I'll see everyone in the next video.
Bananza.